Welcome to Deck Analysis and Testing. Today we are looking at Galaxy PHOTON. Galaxy PHOTON is a rank 8 focused strategy based around making really big Xyz monsters and attacking full game. This deck used to be able to make Photon Lord, which negates monster effects, but Konami hates Photon players, and this is what we are left with now. This skill is still pretty okay, to be fair, but I still think the old skill is the best skill that the deck ever had. But let's see what this deck can do now. You can see we are playing a lot of expensive Photon stuff, even though this is a free-to-play deck. That's because they are not expensive now. We have a new pickup box that has a lot of the Photon stuff that is usually pretty hard to obtain, but you can now get them pretty easily because the pickup box only has 30 packs in each of them. So we can easily play 3 copies of Photon Dragon and Big Xyz without needing to go to their own mini boxes. First, let's have a look at the monsters. We have 3 copies of Galaxy as Photon Dragon. Honestly, the effect doesn't really matter because you're just using this card as a rank 8 material. And let's have a look at the new cards. Galaxy Brave is a new card that can be obtained from the level up rewards. And this card can special summon itself by revealing a Photon monster in your hand, and this monster's level becomes that monster's level. Usually you will be revealing your Photon Dragon and just summoning itself as a level 8 monster on your field. It also has an effect to copy the attack or defense of one of your Galaxy monsters in your graveyard, but honestly it doesn't really matter because this card is just used as a free material on board. Next is 1 copy of a Galaxy Soldier. This is a Searcher. You can special summon this card by sending one other light monster from your hand to the graveyard, and when it is special summoned, you can add 1 Galaxy monster from your deck to your hand. Next are 3 copies of Galaxy Knight. This is a 1-card combo because of the skill. This card can be normal summoned without tributing if you control a Photon or Galaxy monster, and when it is normal summoned, it is mandatory to activate the second effect to reduce its attack by 1000 and special summon a Galaxy as Photon Dragon from your graveyard. And even if you can't summon the Photon Dragon, it's still mandatory to reduce its own attack if you summon it by its first effect. Next is 1 copy of Cloud Dragon. This card is really accessible with the skill. Even though we are only playing 1 copy, you can summon this card over and over again because the skill is not one spiritual. You can use the effect every single turn to bring this card out from the deck or the graveyard. This card can tribute itself to special summon a Galaxy Eyes monster from your hand or the graveyard, including the Xyz monsters, and also one spiritual. You can attach this card to one of the Galaxy Eyes Xyz monsters you control, and this effect is occasionally useful, but usually it doesn't really do that much. It is most useful if you have Galaxy Eyes Xyz in your graveyard and you have this card on your field. You can tribute this card to revive that Xyz and then immediately attach it to that Xyz as material, so it has 1 material to activate its effect. And then we have the Spells and Traps. We have 3 copies of a Spiritual Entanglement and 3 copies of Spiritualism. These spiritual cards are really good against monsters and macro respectively, and they are both free to obtain. Next is 3 copies of Galaxy Expedition. This is basically a free summon. When you have level 5 or higher Photon or Galaxy monster, you can special summon 1 level 5 or higher Photon or Galaxy monster from your deck in defense position. So this is basically a free guide that you can use to make your rank 8s. And finally, we have 1 copy of Hyper Galaxy. This card is crazy. It is both disruption and a way to get Galaxy as Photon Dragon on your field. This card can tribute 1 monster with a 2000 or more attack except Galaxy as Photon Dragon, then target 1 monster your opponent controls with 2000 or more attack, tribute that card, and if you do, you can special summon Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon from your hand, deck, or graveyard. This card not only gets rid of 1 of your opponent's monsters, it also helps you dodge some kind of negate or other kind of disruption that your opponent may have, because you can always chain this card in response to some effect that your opponent might activate during your turn. For the extra deck, we're playing all rank 8 and some rank 9s that we can overlay on top of our rank 8s. First is 1 copy of Tachyon Dragon. This is not the main focus of this deck, but this deck can make this card, so we are playing 1 copy. The main focus of this deck is making a Cypher Dragon. which doesn't really have a relevant effect, because if you use this effect, you can only attack with Cypher Dragon, which is not very useful. So usually we just make this card and then immediately overlay a copy of Full Armor Photon Dragon on top of it. If you're not familiar with this card basically can be Exceed summoned using Cypher Dragon or Tachyon Dragon, and then it has a once per turn effect to pop a face-up card on field. And also it has 4,000 attack, so if your opponent has no monsters, you can just attack with this one card and it will be enough for lethal. And if your opponent has more cards that you want to pop, you can overlay again to make Cypher Blade Dragon, which can be overlaid on top of your Full Armor Dragon. This card can detach one material to once per turn pop any card on the field, including set cards. So this card can also pop your opponent's back row. If your opponent has some back row that they refuse to activate, or if they have some kind of a battle trap that you are afraid of, you can use this card to pop it. And also it has a graveyard effect. If it is destroyed by your opponent's card effect or your opponent's attacking monster, you can revive one Galaxy Ice Cypher Dragon from your graveyard. And finally, we also have 2 rank 8s that are good going first, because this deck does need something to do going first. We have one copy of the new rank 8 Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand. This is basically a monster negate, or you can use its effect on itself to protect it from any other effects that your opponent might have. We're also playing one copy of Sky Person. This card is really good against Mayakashis and also pretty good against some other decks that special summon from the graveyard. And also the effect that it cannot be destroyed by card effects is pretty useful against some decks to protect itself from being removed by your opponent. Okay, let's have a look at the expensive version, and I forgot to talk about a skill, so let's do that first. Photon Dragon Advent is the 3rd skill that is actually playable with this deck. The first one is Galaxy Photon, which grabs you a Photon spell trap, or Galaxy spell trap, I think. The second one is the one that gives you Photon Lord, but it's now nerfed. And this is now the 3rd Galaxy Photon skill that is actually viable to be used. This skill requires you to not special summon any monsters other than Galaxy or Photon monsters, except those that don't have a level. This skill is again mistranslated, just like every other skill that is released with this box. It basically only locks you into, if you special summon monsters with a level, it must be Galaxy or Photon monsters. But if you summon a monster that doesn't have a level, you can do whatever you want. You can special summon any Xyz or Link monster, basically. And also this skill has 2 effects. You can only use one of them per turn. It's another mistranslation. You cannot use both effects in the same turn. You can only choose one, and that makes it pretty annoying, but it's, I guess, better than nothing. The first effect is to reveal one Galaxy Ice Photon Dragon or one Galaxy Knight in your hand, and then you can add 2 cards from your deck to your hand. That is either Photon Dragon or level 8 warrior type Galaxy monsters, and then you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. Usually you won't send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, because what the intention of this skill is to probably send the Photon Dragon from your hand to the graveyard, and then revive it with something like the Galaxy Knight that you also searched. But you need a monster to reveal with your Galaxy Brave, and Photon Dragon is the only monster that you can reveal that is level 8. So in order to get your free summon from Brave, you need Galaxy Ice Photon Dragon in your hand. So you will only use this effect to pitch the Photon Dragon if you have 2 copies of Photon Dragon in your hand. Otherwise, you will just leave it in your hand and use it to reveal the Brave. The second effect is not once per duel. The first one is. The second one is only once per turn. And it says send 1 Galaxy card from your hand to the graveyard, and then set 1 Cloud Dragon to your field from your deck or graveyard. And also that set card can be immediately flip summoned during the turn it's set, because that's how skills work, apparently. And this skill is really good at basically making you never lose in the grind game, because you can always summon a Photon Dragon at minimum. It isn't a 1-card rank 8, but it's still a Photon Dragon, which is nice, I guess. And it also has 3k attack, so you can use it to, attack some monsters. But yeah, this is the expensive version. We are playing a better back row, including a Cosmic Cyclone and 3 copies of Hyper Galaxy, because this card is just really good. We're playing more copies of Galaxy Soldier, and we are playing the Galaxy Eyes Link monster. Galaxy Eyes Soldier has a pretty annoying problem, which is that it is level 5, and it's not really useful. Usually it just sits on your field doing nothing, but because we are playing the expensive version, we have access to the Link monster, and the Link monster doesn't care what levels you have, as long as it is 2000 attack or higher light monster, you can use it as a link material, so you can just lick it off and make your Link 2, which is pretty good actually. This card allows you to recycle a Photon or Galaxy monster from the graveyard when it's link summoned, and also as a quick effect you can pop a card on field by discarding one Photon card and a Galaxy card, or you can discard Galaxy as Photon Dragon as the entire requirement if you have this card in your hand. Okay, let's have a look at the replays. This deck really excels going second because of the amount of destruction that your Xyz monsters can do. So let's see what we can do now. We are in fact doing second against Suship, which is usually a good sign because Suships aren't very good going first. So let's see what they can do. They're going to make their Suships, which draws them a free card, and they are going to, I guess, set free and pass. We drew a lot of spiritual cards. We drew 2 spiritualisms, which bounces back to back row, and we have a spiritual entanglement that gets rid of his Xyz monster. So let's first get rid of 2 of his back row, activate our skill, and then use our spiritual entanglement before we summon anything onto our field. We'll use the effect of Brave to reveal our Galaxy as Photon Dragon, before we use the Soldier's effect to send the Galaxy Eyes to the graveyard and activate its search effect. It is going to be negated by a Chalice, but that's fine, we still have the Knight that we searched from our skill, so we can just summon it for free and then make Cypher Dragon, which can be ranked up into full armor, which has 4000 attack, so he knows that, and he's going to scoop. Okay, let's have a look at our second game. Let's see what we can do going first. This deck does have plays going first because of the going first rank 8s that we could make, and this hand is looking pretty good, so let's see what this deck is capable of doing going first. We have Galaxy Expedition, which really raises the ceiling of what the turn 1 board of this deck can do, because if we don't have this card, we can pretty much only make 1 rank 8, but because we have this card, we can make 2. So let's do that. Let's make 1 Sky Prison, which prevents our opponent from special summoning from the graveyard, which is killer against certain decks. And then we're going to activate our spell, get another level 8 monster, and make our second rank 8. This is going to be Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand, which is good against pretty much any deck. So our opponent is playing Suships again, but they are playing the Salamandra and Phoenix skill, so on top of making the Suship Xyz monsters, they are also going to make a monster in the game, which is pretty annoying. Our opponent will make a Utopia and then rank Utopia the Lightning on top of it, which outs Xyz monsters, but we can always just negate its effects, so that isn't really a big deal until I see that he already have the Gearfried in his hand, which is really annoying. So before it hits the field, I need to activate the effect, otherwise he could just negate the effect. So he is going to successfully summon it, and we will negate the lightning to prevent it from using its effect. Our opponent will steal our Sky Prison and then attack over our rank 8. But thankfully, this is the best top deck ever, and we just have the out to our opponent's monster. We drew Spiritual Entanglement, we can immediately activate it, and that outs his monster negate. So now without the monster negate, we can very easily just use our skill to grab ourselves a Cloud Dragon, which makes Photon Dragon, and then we can just normal summon the Galaxy Knight, and that's 2 level 8s. Now we can use full armor Photon Dragon, popping his Xyz, and before we can go to game, our opponent just scoops. Okay, let's have a look at the final game of this video. We are going second, and our opponent is playing Life Point Pierced Alpha. That means we can't OTK with a single full armor. Our opponent is again playing Suships. What's happening to everyone? Why is everyone playing Suships? Anyway, our opponent is going to lead with a Uni in hand, which summon itself, and then add a guy to hand, and then use the effect of the Red Shari to make the rank 5, and then draw himself a free card, and then normal summon the level 4, and make Roach? Why are you making Roach? Like, this card does nothing against our deck, because none of our monsters in the extra deck has a level. and also it only negates inherit summon, so if we special summon with an effect, you can't negate that, so I guess we'll just combo. But we'll use Spiritual Summon to at least get rid of one of his back row, which is MST. We will use the effect of Galaxy Brave, and that baits him to use the IDP, which actually can't banish any of our monster because our monster has different typing. This is a warrior, and that's a dragon, so he can't banish anything. So we can still at least retain our monster and still make a rank 8. We're going to make a full armor to pop our own Photon Dragon because we can't actually beat it as easily as the other stuff. So we will pop the 2 monsters with the highest attack and just attack the Roach, and our opponent, having only 2 cards in hand, is going to scoop. Good game.